back to Japan, a very dear place for my heart, since my only daughter was born here. Since childhood, Japan, as a unique nation with a remarkable track record of confronting and transcending adversity, has been my inspiration source for resiliency. When I lived in Japan a decade ago, I experienced many typhoons. However, a week-long Typhoon Hanun, which happened right after I arrived in Okinawa last summer, was different. The effects of climate change felt worse than ever before. The typhoon was more prolonged and violent, causing problems in energy, water, and food security on a scale that I have ever experienced in this highly developed country. Storms draw something out of us that calm seas don't. Typhoon Hanun inspired me to analyze Japan's energy and environmental issues, create a new concept of Nexus integrated policies for Japan, and apply it toward clean hydrogen production and integration into its high priority heavy industry sectors, with a hope for further application in other countries. Before diving into strategy, let's very briefly review Japan's energy and environmental situations. Japan, as the world's fourth largest developed economy, faces many energy issues. First, Japan's energy security environment is vulnerable compared to the other G7 countries. For example, in fiscal year 2022, the country's primary energy self-sufficiency ratio was around 13% due to the scarcity of domestic fossil fuels. Japan has other renewable energy resources but does not use them to their full potential. In 2022, Japan also depended on imports for about 97% of its primary energy supply, exposing itself to the high global fossil fuel price volatility during the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Second, although Japan always had a high level of energy reliability, its recent situation worsened because typhoons and earthquakes cause regional, large-scale, and lengthy power outages. And lastly, Japan's energy resilience challenges, also worsened by natural disasters, happen due to the inadequately interconnected split electricity system. The future climate change effects and continued integration of renewable energy may further affect Japan's energy resilience and reliability. And what about environment? Japan must account for fluctuating environmental security, reliability, and resilience situation. Japan wrestles with the effects of global climate change, which continues to affect its ecosystem reliability and resilience, as well as food security. Water security is also crucial, since by 2030, a quarter of the country's population will live in water-scarce areas. However, despite its unique constraints, Japan can still build on its robust record in innovation and favorable financial conditions to chart its narrow but achievable course to address its energy and environmental issues. Considering Japan's energy environmental situations, my research study, first, builds analysis upon two concepts: my concept of Nexus integrated policies for Japan and my Colibris model of Clean Hydrogen Ladder version 5.0. Second, it evaluates the role of heavy industry in Japan's hydrogen strategy. And lastly, proposes an ambitious begin at the beginning strategy for producing and integrating clean hydrogen in its high priority heavy industry applications. To present begin at the beginning strategy, first, I use my concept of Nexus integrated policies for Japan. Experts believe that Japan is not on course to meet its 2050 carbon neutrality target, since it must confront complex and simultaneous energy and environmental issues. Despite the complexity of the task, I believe that only cross-sectoral policies might improve Japan's challenges. Since water, food, and energy form a nexus at the heart of sustainable development, the Nexus approach is important for Nexus integrated policies, which I created for Japan for short, mid, and long-term timeframes. My Nexus integrated policies are based on two pillars. First pillar is Stockholm Environment Institute Nexus framework, which consists of the following guiding principles, such as environment, investing in sustaining ecosystem services; economy, creating more with less; society, acceleration of integration and better access of the poorest; finance, innovation, and governance are also essential for the success of these Nexus integrated policies. The framework also considers climate change, population growth, and urbanization as combined pressures on ecosystems and limited resources. And the second pillar consists of my sectoral policy recommendations for energy, environmental reliability and resilience, as well as environmental security. In a world dominated by net zero arguments, it is crucial to devise integrated policies simultaneously accounting for energy and environmental security, resilience, and reliability issues. Therefore, my Nexus integrated policies consider first that the most viable options to strengthen energy situations require longer time frames and may not be the same actions to solve environmental issues. Second, a selection of cleaner energy options require assessment of their life cycle emissions and supply chains. Third, creation of the multidimensional circular economy. And fourth, guaranteeing the just and orderly energy transition while accounting for different net externalities and trade-offs. The second concept for building the analysis to present beginning and the beginning strategy is Michael Liebreich's Clean Hydrogen Ladder version 5.0. This model is designed to show the likelihood that any proposed use cases will substantially use hydrogen or its derivatives in a decade. Liebreich contends that since clean hydrogen supply will be limited for decades, the world should focus its money and efforts only on the use cases on the top few rows of the clean hydrogen ladder. Clean hydrogen presents a vital opportunity for Japan amid the decarbonization transition. As a crucial player in reducing carbon intensity in some of Japan's hard-to-abate sectors, clean hydrogen may complement energy efficiency improvements and other low-carbon technologies in its decarbonization efforts. Clean hydrogen can also continue Japan's renewable electricity's growth and contribute to other policy objectives, such as energy access, energy security, economic development, and local air pollution. Japan became the first country in the world to embark on a genuine hydrogen strategy. In 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister Abe committed to Japan becoming a hydrogen society, a future energy system where hydrogen will play a significant role in all sectors of the Japanese economy. In 2017, Japan issued the Basic Hydrogen Strategy. While supporting the vision of a hydrogen society, the strategy prioritized gray and blue hydrogen and neglected green hydrogen with the development of renewables. Last June, Japan revised its original strategy. However, it is still structured to create hydrogen demand basically in all sectors of the economy, versus prioritizing the promising areas within hard-to-abate industrial sectors. Second, strategy also promotes gray hydrogen, still mainly imported from overseas, and does not mention the lack of domestic green hydrogen due to the slow pace of domestic renewables development. Fortunately, during the last year, there has been more positive progress related to clean hydrogen development. For example, allocation of 3 trillion yen, or about $21 billion, to clean hydrogen subsidies over a 15-year period. Hokkaido Electric announced plans for Japan's largest green hydrogen hub, etc. Therefore, Japan's hydrogen strategy still needs to be re-examined. My next slides present innovative policies to produce and integrate clean hydrogen into Japan's key heavy industry applications, such as chemicals, refining, and steel. The ambitious strategy, begin at the beginning, consists of 3 phases: short-term scale-up from 2023-2030, mid-term steps 2030-2050, and long-term growth 2050 and beyond. First, during the short-term scale-up, Japan may consider revising its hydrogen strategy by establishing it as a part of national decarbonization strategy and setting medium-term targets and avenues for public-private sector collaboration. During this period, Japan could consider focusing on setting a sustainable and circular production of clean hydrogen by preparing the domestic green and pink hydrogen hubs and co-locating them next to wastewater treatment plants. While expanding clean hydrogen infrastructure, Japan may consider water food security and nuclear waste issues. Unused tertiary effluents from wastewater treatment as the preferred option over potable or desalinated water will not lead to water competition and stress. The potential production and use of blue hydrogen is also considered before and during the early 2030s. As far as clean hydrogen integration, Japan could consider executing a much firmer carbon pricing mechanism to support decarbonization in chemicals, refining, and steel sectors. It will also be important to build global clean hydrogen supply chain as a supplement during the domestic clean hydrogen growth. Additional policies are described in the research paper on the Aluminum website. During the midterm steps, 2030-2050, Japan may consider maintaining its hydrogen strategy as a part of its decarbonization strategy and set long-term targets and avenues for public-private sector collaboration. The focus of the strategy at that time is on building green hydrogen and then pink hydrogen hubs, co-located next to the wastewater treatment plants. During the early 2030s, the production and usage of blue hydrogen for integration to the high priority heavy industry sectors is also considered. Japan could continue focusing on water food security and nuclear waste issues, and if needed, offer additional policy support and financing to privately funded hydrogen infrastructure projects coming online at that time. During domestic clean hydrogen growth, some import of clean hydrogen will be needed for replacing fossil hydrogen in the chemicals, refining, and steel sectors. A firm carbon pricing mechanism needs to be in place to support decarbonization. Additional policies I described in the research paper on the Illuminant website. In 2050 and beyond, Japan needs to continue focusing on decarbonization and public-private sector collaboration. During the long-term growth, the focus of the hydrogen strategy will be on producing green hydrogen and pink hydrogen from co-located hubs next to the wastewater treatment plants. Japan still needs to consider water food security and nuclear waste issues and environmental impact on its communities. Japan may contemplate on providing additional policy and financial support for next generation clean hydrogen production and integration projects if necessary. The clean hydrogen integration needs to focus primarily on chemicals and steel sectors. The refining sector applications, especially desulfurization and hydrocracking, will be less necessary as fossil fuels are phased out. A firm carbon pricing mechanism needs to be in place to support decarbonization in these high priority heavy industry sectors. Hopefully at that time, only a limited amount of clean hydrogen, green and pink, would need to be imported. Additional policies are described in the research paper on the Illuminant website. In conclusion, my research study proposes Nexus integrated policies for clean hydrogen production and integration into Japan's high priority heavy industry sectors, chemicals, refining, and steel. Begin at the beginning strategy is intended to become a potential part of Japanese portfolio of decarbonization approaches. The study also educates pragmatic climate tech investors that sectors considered hard to abate today will in time become hard to resist. It provides an avenue for Japan to solidify its global hydrogen leadership position while confronting and transcending its current energy environmental challenges. And if needed, a similar framework may be applied in other countries with hydrogen ambitions, especially facing similar energy environmental situations. Storms indeed draw something out of us that calm seas don't. My experience during Typhoon Hanun sparked this complex research study. Not just Japan, but the rest of the world will no longer have calm seas. However, the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects this to change, but the realist adjusts the sails. So let's adjust our sails, embrace the Nexus approach, and begin at the beginning of pursuing our clean hydrogen ambitions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Venera. We actually have questions. So, and you may or may not be able to answer this one, but you probably have heard of Dr. W. Edwards Deming. He was very influential in Japanese thinking. Is his work still of any value these days?
I've heard, but I haven't been utilizing in my research.
Okay, thank you. That was a question from the audience. You also mentioned a similar framework of Nexus. The integrated policies can be applied to other countries with hydrogen ambitions. Have you seen this applied elsewhere?
Yes, actually, I have just recently applied on the example of Kazakhstan, which is described in my most recent study called Green Hydrogen Water Food Nexus, a sustainability analysis for Kazakhstan, which has been recently published on Illuminant. So in this study, not only applied the framework of Nexus integrated policies, but also another framework of quasi-revolutionary transition governance model for developing U.S. coastal green hydrogen hubs, which I described at your last year's Wall Street Summit in New York. I am very honored and grateful to have been invited to present my research as a keynote plenary speaker in Almaty, the 29th Kazakhstan International Oil and Gas Conference 2 weeks ago. So that was exhilarating to see, um, to use Nexus integrated policies in action.
Thank you. Next question. You're very well known as #1 most read thought leader in energy on aluminum. I read your stuff. It puts you kind of in a unique position to be an influencer. How do you plan to leverage this platform to accelerate the energy transition?
Thank you. And I will try to read you this answer on this one to keep for time efficiency. So a just energy transition is one of the main topics that I currently focus in my sustainability research and advisory efforts. And a just energy transition approach, safeguard that all affected people are considered by those by making decisions. And clean hydrogen is one of the crucial pieces of the global decarbonization puzzle, and thus of the just energy transition. So I'm very surprised, honored, thrilled, grateful to Aluminum for recognizing my efforts in thought leadership. And for anyone who would, I'm sure a lot of people are aware, but just to do a little prop on them, it's the Aluminum, it's the world's largest sustainability expert network and the global source of corporate information on sustainability with more than 350,000 readers across 110 countries. So throughout my 2 years on Aluminum, basically upon almost since its inception, I've shared my research, energy transition and climate change. And what I really liked about it, that I believe that being a part of the aluminum community has helped me to play a role in accelerating the energy transition, since I can share my insight pretty much instantaneously with hundreds of thousands of global sustainability professionals in various sectors, especially energy. And this type of approach vastly differs from another typical academic journey when I shared my economics research about poverty in transitional economies, where I was primarily known by the experts in the field. So, and I especially also appreciate the opportunity to broadcast my aluminum published research on energy transition and hydrogen by speaking at international conferences such as this, podcasts, webinars, and also have this faster collaboration opportunities with the professionals in the energy sector, which seeks right now innovative solutions and opportunities for energy transition in the real time.
Yes, especially since it's going to take us decades to make this transition, and we're just
Correct.
starting.
Correct.
So,
All minds need to think about things. That's why I really appreciate Aluminum approach that they publish all the thoughts about different leaders, including from different generations, because one mind cannot just comprehend what can we do with the energy transition. The ceiling of our imagination is not the ceiling of energy transition.
I totally agree. Having worked in the energy field for 50 years, it takes time to get anything done, but they do have the capital base to get the job done. That's what people have to recognize. They're the world's largest industry, and they are starting the beginning, the pathway to a transition. Next question. How can the energy industry better foster collaboration for a sustainable future?
Well, I believe that sustainability is a multi-dimensional and non-linear dilemma. So it will require multidimensional and non-linear solutions. Therefore, to foster global collaboration for sustainable value creation, the energy industry, I believe, must embrace multidisciplinary thinking, inspired by the energy, water, food nexus, socioeconomic factors, international security, to solve global sustainability dilemmas effectively. So this approach helps reflect the broad range of views and expertise in building a sustainable future, promoting dialogue between different sectors and seeing solutions to sustainability challenges as collective efforts.
Yes, there's also an opportunity to eradicate energy poverty. People
Yes.
don't realize 1.3 billion people are not connected to the electric power grid. I worked in India with an NGO that took kerosene wicker lamp out of people's huts, put a solar collector, a battery, and LED lamp. We did that for 25,000 families. We were the Green NGO of the Year in 2010. The need was 300 million people. So it's a vast opportunity to leapfrog to better technologies in the global south, I believe.
Absolutely.
Do you have some, we have some extra time. So do you have some thoughts about the global south in your travels and your research?
I'm not focusing global south. Actually, currently I'm writing another massive research study on Japan. My whole
Okay.
office is basically, it's all papers, and I'm trying to think more about what type of what color of hydrogen um, will be the winner in the future for Japan. I know Japan just had recently changes with in the leadership. They will be preparing to change the NDCs. So I'm I'm all in Japan at this point. Maybe next year I will think about the global south, but for the next couple of months I'm just reading all about Japan and what's happening right now, and both, like I mentioned, from a different levels in the water sector, energy, economic, international security, and just looking from the in the holistic way, not just from the energy sector, because I feel when you work in the energy sector, you kind of just salute it's yourself in that sector. But it's
Yeah.
if you get up and talk to people from water industry, from international security, anybody, then you see the whole picture. And I love doing that. It takes a lot of work, just trying to put the connections, and find the trade-offs and feedback loops and everything else. But that's what I'm doing right now.
I have one last question. So where do you see the decarbonization efforts go? Because in Japan, there are 9 utilities, there are many oil companies, refineries specifically. Um, where do you see that in application of hydrogen? Is it going to be blue hydrogen, green hydrogen? Uh, steel manufacture, these type of things are ripe for decarbonization efforts.
Yes, I'm currently comparing green and pink hydrogen, and I know a lot about green hydrogen. I'm a part of the Women in Green Hydrogen Network. I just finished this study for Kazakhstan, but I believe that each country needs to be looked from a completely different view, because each country has a different energy mix. It has a different political situation, population. So I'm I'm being very hopeful that pink hydrogen might actually be helpful for Japan. I really like what, with all the green hydrogen efforts are happening here. But pink hydrogen might be interesting solution with a revival of nuclear energy, with the next generation, because hydrogen at the end of the day, hydrogen is a commodity. So we need to crack that commodity pricing. Nobody will use it, and you can put as much premium, you can put enough um, guilt on the consumers, but at the end of the day, you have to crack the code of both the cost, sustainability, just a lot of things. So stay tuned because I'm thinking about this right now.
Well, for our audience, could you define pink hydrogen for the audience, please?
Pink hydrogen is it's a hydrogen that is produced. It's a splitting of the water by using nuclear energy. It's just a simple way. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Venera is now going to be the moderator for the rest of this session, and we thank her very much for her participation, both as a speaker and moderator. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Venera.
It's an absolute honor. Thank you.